So when the Confederate men started to try to pull their cannons up the mountain, they started using their horses, and all of their horses started dying. They start using their donkeys, and all of their donkeys start dying because these wheels are getting washed in that mud, they're getting stuck. These things weigh about 1,800 pounds. And so this is killing their animals. So then they say, forget it, we're going to use our men. So then they start using 100 men to move each one of these. They disassemble them, they start moving them by the actual cannon themselves, and then the carriages go with. And it takes about 100 men to move one individual cannon.
Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield Park occupies a historic location haunted by the legacies left by its past inhabitants. While this area has housed many different groups from Native Americans before the 1800s to modern-day Americans, the park is extremely effective in reflecting the events of the American Civil War and the legacies the Confederate and Union sides left behind. Although these legacies undoubtedly accredit their respective groups for their valor and courage, some aspects of this Atlanta landmark subtly and rather unjustifiably stripped certain other groups, especially the minorities, of the time of their importance and impact on the area. The role of victimized groups such as African Americans and women are trivialized by that of the white man at Kennesaw Mountain National Battlefield Park. The role of African Americans throughout the war was vital to the success of the Union Army and the abolishment of slavery. However, this is largely ignored at the park, as are the roles of women. What is discussed most frequently, however, is the great maneuvers of brilliant generals and the plight of war for the male white soldiers. The focus on white men throughout the park was prohibitive of an accurate and honest depiction of the role of African Americans and women in the Civil War and the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain. While walking through the trails at Kennesaw Mountain Battlefield Park, our group found several monuments. They make no mention to the African Americans and women who were influential to the battle. The first of the monuments was a tall white monument that paid tribute to Confederate soldiers from Georgia who fought in the battle. This is significant because it recognizes the Confederate soldiers who embodied an ideology of oppression of African Americans and ignores the good that the Union soldiers did. The second is also a large white monument, this one commemorating the soldiers from Illinois. The sculpture of the soldier out front with two men behind him apparently draping something over him as a hero of sorts. The position of the man in this monument, which is more out front, while the women are back and to the side, shows how women are portrayed as lesser than men. They are seen rather as housekeepers or servants and not as important figures in society. Although many aspects of the war at Kennesaw Mountain circled around the actions and accomplishments of men, no noticeable accolades of women in their role were left as a legacy in the area despite their significant contribution during the Civil War. With men serving during the Civil War, women predominantly took on a bigger role at home with their absence. Because of the small plantation that comprised most of Georgia and the southern states, this role often included responsibilities of running an entire plantation along with the requirement for regular manual labor. Women also took roles in occupations previously employed by men. According to Catherine Clinton in her work titled The Other Civil War, American Women in the 19th Century, women working in the fields and mills, although they comprised of a small population, had a huge impact on the economy in the South. The minimalization of monuments appraising them, however, undoubtedly determined the reputation of women's direct impact on the war. In addition to increased authority and control at home, a select number of women also took up responsibilities in close proximity to the battlefield. These jobs encompassed the medical fields of warfare, and the absence of monuments in the park representing this role is clearly unjustified. Throughout the Civil War and in the Atlanta campaign in particular, African Americans played a very important role. Their mistreatment by slave masters and the Confederate Army made them despise the Southern people and look towards the Union as a liberation force. During the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain, after exhausting and killing many of their horses with the harsh labor preparation, the Confederate Army went to plantations enlisting slave labor. They forced the slaves to carry heavy cannons and dig trenches, and many died in the process. At the park, it was told that this labor was done by Confederates, but this is not true, as it was actually done by slaves. This pattern of horrid mistreatment resulted in many African Americans running away from their plantations to join the Union Army, where they would receive much better living conditions and pay. As stated in Edmund L. Drago's essay, How Sherman's March Through Georgia Affected the Slaves, the last remnants of slave control shattered, the breakdown of the plantation system became irreversible. Suffice to say, this battle and Sherman's march as a whole were instrumental for the liberation of slaves in the South. National parks serve to preserve the past with respect and accuracy. Kennesaw National Battlefield Park, although it commemorates its past well with many mediums such as monuments, signs, and even people, fails to give credit to the minorities that have undoubtedly impacted not only the area, but the present status of the United States.